You meditate, you journal, you spend more time trying to fix yourself than living as yourself. You light candles and call it clarity. You drink herbs and call it growth. You tell yourself this is healing. But deep down, you know it isn't. You still hate yourself. You still wake up with panic in your throat. You still cry after scrolling past your ex's account. You still feel like you're not enough, unless you're doing the work. And here's the part that stings. You didn't heal. You performed it. You built a spiritual mask and convinced yourself it was progress. You paid thousands of dollars for curated suffering, for some coach with a perfect smile and childhood trauma they haven't even looked at. You called it transformation. It was dissociation with better lighting. The wellness world gave you rituals to distract you, rules to control you, and mantras to gaslight you. Everything is happening for you. Really, was that what they told you after you got cheated on? After your father died? After your therapist ghosted you because you were too much? You're not broken because you're unhealed. You're exhausted because you were told healing was a destination, something you could arrive at if you just worked hard enough. And if you're still in pain, it's because you didn't try hard enough. That's the lie. Healing became a job. And if you weren't grinding for your mental health, you were lazy, unconscious, not doing the work. It's spiritual capitalism, and you've been sold. You think you're becoming free. You're becoming addicted to progress you can never prove, because the goal of this industry isn't peace. It's to keep you circling your pain like it's sacred. And while you chant and journal and microdose your way through another breakdown, they're cashing the F***ck in. You were never meant to fix yourself this way. You were meant to feel, to scream, to break things, to get angry, to live. But you were told rage is unhealed. Sadness is low vibe. None of that's true. You're not blocked. You're buried under a mountain of self-help bulls, **T, and now it's time to dig yourself out. This isn't healing. It's a hustle in disguise. And it's killing you slowly, with a smile on its face. Welcome to the Echoes of Being, where we unlock reality. Chapter 1. The cult you joined. You didn't find healing. You found a cult with better branding. They didn't offer you peace. They offered you purpose through pain, just expensive enough to feel like progress. You walked in broken, and they gave you rituals, mantras, crystals, journals, rules, dressed up as freedom. They told you your trauma was sacred, that your breakdown was a portal, that your suffering was just your shadow integrating. No. It was your nervous system begging you to stop, but they told you it was working, that if you felt worse, it meant you were ascending. So you kept going, and they kept selling. Every week a new way to be closer to your higher self, but your higher self always seemed just out of reach. Right behind the next breathwork session, the next plant medicine trip, the next overpriced retreat in the jungle. They kept you chasing, because a healed person doesn't pay anymore. But a healing one, that's repeat business. You didn't get your power back, you just became a loyal customer. You were taught to outsource your intuition to influencers, to replace your emotions with affirmations, to trust a stranger's protocol over your body's screaming. And when it didn't work, they blamed you. You're resisting, you're not aligned, you're not ready to receive. No, you were drowning, and they handed you a vision board. This isn't healing, it's indoctrination. A factory line of broken people polishing their pain for Instagram, smiling through another anxiety attack with the caption, trusting the process. There is no process, there's only what works for you, and they never taught you to find that, because then you'd stop needing them. This isn't self-help, it's spiritual codependency. You didn't heal, you got hijacked. Chapter 2. The 4 healing lies. Lie number 1. Healing makes you worthy. You believed that if you fixed enough of yourself, you'd finally be lovable, finally be whole, finally feel like you belonged in your own skin. So, you treated healing like a ladder. Each session, each ritual, each unblocked chakra, another step closer to being enough. But here's the truth. You were never unworthy. You were just taught to hate the parts they didn't understand. And now you're at war with yourself, in the name of becoming someone else's idea of healed. Lie number 2. Pain makes you special. You turned your trauma into a brand, wrote your hurt into captions, held your suffering up like it made you more interesting. But pain doesn't make you powerful. Healing from it quietly does. Your trauma isn't a personality, and your story doesn't need to be sold to be real. Your worth isn't in how much you've suffered, it's in how deeply you survived. Lie number 3. Positive vibes only. This is spiritual censorship. You've been taught to bypass your own rage, talk to vibe your way through grief, anger, betrayal, to smile through emotional hell as long as your frequency looks good online. But forced positivity is a prison. It turns your real pain into something shameful. It tells you that anything negative is a failure. It's not. It's human. You are not broken for feeling everything. You are broken when you pretend you don't. Lie number 4. You owe forgiveness. They told you that healing means letting go, that to move on, you must release the people who shattered you. But some things are not meant to be forgiven. Not to stay bitter, but to stay honest. Forgiveness isn't freedom if it means betraying your truth. You don't owe peace to the person who stole it. And healing doesn't require saying. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is never forgive them. These lies sound beautiful. They sound spiritual. They sound like growth. But they are a script, one that keeps you quiet, docile, compliant. The truth. You don't need more mantras. You need permission to feel, without guilt, without filters, without pretending it's all part of some divine plan. Chapter 3. Your body knows. You've journaled until your wrists cramped. You've meditated until your legs went numb. You've held crystals, chanted, fasted, and somehow, you still feel sick. That's not resistance. That's your body begging you to stop. But they told you pain is part of the process. They told you discomfort means you're expanding. That your nausea, insomnia, and panic attacks are just energy clearing. Bullshit. Your body isn't healing. It's sounding the alarm. You call it a breakthrough. Your nervous system calls it trauma reenactment. Those healing crises you're told to push through. That's your body screaming, enough. Every panic attack after a transformational breathwork session. That's your body reliving something you weren't ready to face. Every sleepless night after a cacao ceremony. That's your brain in survival mode. Because you just cracked open wounds with no plan to close them. And no, your trauma isn't stored in your hip. It is stored in the patterns you keep repeating. Because no one taught you how to actually feel it and move through it, not bypass it with sage. You were told that pain was proof it was working, but all it proved was that your intuition was overridden by someone else's agenda. They called it activation. It was overload. They called it spiritual awakening. It was your nervous system short-circuiting. You think you're evolving, but your jaw is always clenched. Your stomach is always tight. You're tired but wired. You're not ascending. You're just... And still, you keep showing up. Because quitting means failure, right? Because the body follows the mind, right? Wrong, the body tells the truth. You're too brainwashed to hear. And the truth is this. You are not healing. You are running a ritual of self-abandonment, dressed up as transformation. Until you stop performing and start listening, your body will keep yelling in symptoms, in silence, in sadness. You don't need another practice. You need to come back into your skin. Chapter 4. The Shame Factory. Every time you whisper to yourself, I should be healed by now, just know that thought didn't come from you. It was planted, manufactured, packaged, and delivered by $1 billion industry built on one powerful emotion. The longer you feel broken, the longer they have something to sell you. You think it's product positioning. You think you need that trauma course because you're not there yet. You're not supposed to get there. There's no finish line, just a treadmill of self-improvement you were never meant to get off. They sell you tools, but what they're really selling is deficiency. They keep you insecure, just enough to keep buying. They feed you polished vulnerability so you'll confuse it with truth. Your shame isn't a side effect. It's the engine, the emotional currency they rely on to keep the system running. The more ashamed you feel about being behind, the more loyal you become to the path that's keeping you stuck. Here's the part that hurts. They know this. They post about their relapses and bad days, not to relate, but to monetize. Influencers earn up to 5 times more when they post about their setbacks. Not their growth, not their peace, their pain, because your trust spikes when they cry on camera, because now they seem real. So you buy what they're selling, you subscribe to their pain, and you measure your journey by how aesthetically they suffer. It's emotional marketing, dressed as spiritual leadership, and you're the product. Even therapists, yes, even the licensed ones. Some of them exploit your confusion, feed your dependency, and call it a container. You walk in looking for safety. You walk out with more labels than you arrived with. Now you're not just a person, you're a diagnosis, a protocol, a process, a project. This isn't healing. This is industrialized shame with a refund policy. And it works. Because shame is the perfect drug. It makes you quiet, it makes you obedient, and it makes you come back. Healing should feel like liberation, but this feels like death. You're not healing, you're financing yourself, and they're building empires on your silence. Chapter 5. Confessions. I took mushrooms to heal my trauma. Now I dissociate every time I feel joy. My therapist told me I wasn't trying hard enough. As I sat there, suicidal, begging for help, I spent $12,000 on spiritual retreats, shamanic breathing, holotropic workshops. I still want to die. I just smile better now. These aren't anomalies. They're not rare. They're not the result of someone doing it wrong. They are the system working exactly as it was designed, to exploit your pain, then blame you when it gets worse. These people didn't fail. They were failed. They were told their trauma was currency. They were handed tools they didn't need for wounds they didn't name. They were shamed for not healing fast enough, then guilted for not being grateful enough for the breakdown. The worst part, they still think it's their fault, that they're the broken ones, that they're the outliers, that maybe if they just tried harder, opened their heart wider, surrendered deeper, they might finally feel something that lasts longer than a weekend retreat. But what they really need, what no one is offering, is someone to look them in the eye and say, you were never the problem, you were hurt, you asked for help, and the system sold you performance. You needed safety. You've got strategy. You needed someone to witness your pain. You got someone coaching you out of it because your breakdown made them uncomfortable. This is not healing. This is spiritual gaslighting dressed in empathy. This is pain dressed up as purpose. This is survival being called growth. And if you've ever walked out of a session, a workshop, a circle, feeling like you were further from yourself than when you walked in, you are not alone. You are not broken. You are finally seeing the truth. Sometimes, the most awakened thing you can do is admit that the people who said they could save you never listened long enough to understand what hurt in the first place. Chapter 6. The bypassers. They told you to trust the universe, to choose light, to stay in gratitude. Even while your body trembled, your sleep disappeared, and your chest burned like grief was clawing its way out. You know who says that? People who never learned to sit with pain. People who built entire personalities around pretending they've transcended their trauma, while quietly bleeding out behind the scenes. That coach who tells you to vibrate higher. They haven't spoken to their parents in 10 years. They just post quotes and repress rage until it rots them from the inside out. That healer preaching radical forgiveness. They've never confronted their abuser. They just swallowed the poison and called it peace. The influencer who tells you love is the answer. They scream into a pillow every night alone, terrified of intimacy. But they'll never show you that. Because healing, in their world, isn't truth. It's performance. It's aesthetic suffering with filters and lighting presets. And you sitting there, actually trying to face your shit you're made to feel like you're behind. You're not behind. You're just honest. You're not negative. You're in reality. The people telling you to be the light are often the most disconnected people you'll ever meet. Because bypassing pain is easy. They can quote Rumi, they can sip ceremonial cook, they can sage the room and keep pretending they're healed as long as no one asks the questions that crack the image. But healing isn't love and light. It's rage. It's grief. It's screaming at the ceiling because God won't answer. Healing is a fucking mess. And anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. Don't take orders from people who refuse to feel. Don't follow people whose only gift is sounding calm while their soul collapses in silence. You don't need more light. You need the truth. And the truth is, most of your spiritual teachers are just better liars than you are. Chapter 7. Radical UN healing. You've been brainwashed. Not by a religion. Not by your family. By an industry that convinced you peas had a purchase link. They fed you a story. That you were broken. That your pain made you less. That you needed to chase a better version of yourself. Endlessly. Just to be okay. But what if the real healing is this? Stop healing. What if your rituals aren't sacred? They're just routines to silence the voice that keeps whispering, this isn't working. What if your therapist isn't helping? They're just helping you become easier to manage, more regulated, more palatable, more productive in a society that profits off your burnout. What if the version of you that smokes cigarettes, watches trash TV, eats junk food at midnight, is more authentic than the crystal-holding, cold-plunging clone you've turned into? This isn't about rebellion. It's about returning to the parts of you that never needed fixing. The messy parts. The human parts. The ones that scream when they're angry and cry when they're not okay. So here's your assignment. Delete one wellness app. Not tomorrow. You'll survive without a daily notification telling you to breathe, rebuy something you gave up, to be more pure. Ice cream, beer, a stupid hoodie that makes you laugh. Reclaim your imperfection. Tell one person the truth. My healing journey is bullshit. I just want to feel something real again. And if your whole identity crumbles when you say that, good. Because that wasn't identity. That was ego in spiritual drag. Stop trying to be the better version of yourself. Be the one that's real enough to burn everything that never worked. Let your progress rot. Let your rituals die. Let your healing collapse so your wholeness can finally speak. You don't need to be better. You need to be free. Chapter 8. The Rage. Rebirth. You were taught to bury it, to breathe through it, to transmute, to light a candle and whisper affirmations over the fire in your chest like that would make it go away. It didn't. It grew. Because your rage isn't a wound. It's a weapon. Not against others, but against the system that told you anger was ugly. They told you to be grateful, to smile, to radiate high vibrations while your boundaries were violated, while your trauma was triggered, while your soul was screaming for war. And you were told to surrender. CK, surrender. You are not here to be that rage in your stomach, that tightness in your throat, that heat rising when someone tells you to stay calm. That is your body remembering it was born to fight, not sit in stillness while the world breaks you. You don't need to let it go. You need to let it out, scream, break the plate, burn the **king journal. Not to hurt, but to honor the part of you that refused to die silently. Because rage isn't destruction, rage is resurrection. And for too long, you've been told that your anger makes you unstable, unhealed, unspiritual. But here's the truth. It's the most honest thing you've felt in years. It's not something to be feared. It's something to be followed, all the way back to the place where you first swallowed it. Your rage is not your weakness. It's your fire exit. Out of the performance, out of the shame, out of the healing industry that told you to stay quiet while they made money off your suffering. This isn't violence. This is justice. Let it burn. Let the good girl version of you collapse. Let the spiritually polite identity go up in smoke. The you that comes after, she's not soft. She's sovereign. Chapter 9. Dating your damage. You've been told your brokenness is a problem. Something to fix. Something to hide. A shameful backstory to be rewritten in affirmations and cold plunges. But what if your damage is the most honest part of you? What if your anxiety isn't a malfunction, but a loyal bodyguard that kept you safe when no one else did? What if your depression isn't laziness, but protest, a strike against a life that never felt like yours in the first place? What if the parts of you that feel too much, too intense, too emotional, aren't flaws, but evidence that you've always felt deeper than the world allowed? You've spent so long trying to fix yourself, you forgot how to feel yourself. You stopped being with your pain. You started managing it, scheduling it, packaging it for others to understand. But healing isn't fixing. It's facing. And maybe the next step isn't becoming a better version of you. It's becoming the one who stops running. So, here's the radical question. What if you dated your damage, sat with it, took it out for coffee, listened, without judgment, without diagnosis, without trying to transform it into some beautiful metaphor? What if you touched a part of you that's still trembling and didn't call it weak? What if you held your fear instead of choking it with optimism? You keep saying you want love, but you abandon the most wounded parts of yourself every time they speak up. You keep saying you want wholeness, but you're ashamed of the cracks. Stop fixing yourself. Start falling in love with your contradictions. The chaos, the softness, the rage, the ache, they're not obstacles. They're invitations. You don't need to transcend your darkness, you need to date it, dance with it, let it ruin your schedule and rearrange your soul. Because maybe healing isn't arriving somewhere better. Maybe it's finally being okay exactly where you are. Chapter 10. The only truth that matters. You weren't broken until someone told you you were, before the journals, before the crystals, before the healing journey that became your full-time job. You were just surviving, quietly, imperfectly, fully. Then they showed up, the coaches, the therapists, and they sold you the story you're not enough. But I can help you get there. They sold you shame as insight, emptiness as awakening, suffering as a subscription model. And the worst part, you believed them. You started editing yourself, polishing your sadness, converting your grief into something palatable. You buried your instincts. You silenced your resistance. You called it growth. But the truth, you were never broken. You were tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of shrinking. Tired of performing healing while your soul begged for rest. The little version of you. The one who survived chaos, trauma, neglect. They didn't need to be healed. They needed to be celebrated. They deserved a goddamn parade. And all you gave them was a protocol. You don't need to become something new. You need to return to something real. To the version of you that didn't apologize for being loud, or sensitive, or angry, or soft, or strange, or human. They told you to walk away from your wounded self, but your wounds are your roots. And the moment you cut them off, you stop growing. So, here's the only truth that matters. You are not a self-improvement project. You are not a brand. You are not a F***ing vibration. You are a person, and your life isn't something to optimize. It's something to feel. The next time someone offers you a program to fix yourself, ask them, what if I'm already enough? And then walk away. Not with guilt, with clarity. Because your healing never needed their approval, only your permission to stop chasing it. This isn't healing. This is a jailbreak. Burn the books. Delete the apps. Let the crystals collect dust. And light your sage stick for what it really is. A farewell ritual. You are not on a healing journey. You are escaping a cult. One that profited from your pain, dressed it in pastel quotes, sold it back to you and left you lonelier than before. But now, you see it. And once you see it, you don't go back. So here's your final act of rebellion. Do something unhealthy. Watch trash TV. Eat the damn cookie. Cry without analyzing it. Be human without a lesson plan. And when the guilt creeps in, laugh because you don't owe anyone an apology for existing raw and real. The world doesn't need another healed it needs you. Unpolished, alive, and done performing. If you've made it this far, you're not just watching. You're waking up. And if this video cracked something in you, if it made you feel seen in ways no guru ever did, then yeah, we've earned it. Tap subscribe. Not for us. For you. Because your rebellion deserves a witness. This isn't healing. This is a jailbreak. And you just found the key.